before iterating, the thing is, interviewers aren't expecting you to write perfect code off the bat. In fact, a lot of engineers suffer from the fact that they are perfectionists. They want to over-engineer everything and have everything figured out before they start. But the problem is the real world doesn't work like that. And if you get analysis by over paralysis, then all of a sudden you'll be stuck for many, many, many years to come. So what they want to see is that you're able to quickly write a solution, run chunks of it, verify that it works, and if it doesn't, fix it. And if you can't fix it, ask a question, communicate, so that they can give you a hint or straight up help you fix it so that you can then write the next chunk of code. The last thing they want to see is that you A, don't iterate at all, and B, just keep going along and writing code while not saying anything. Now for edge cases, what they want to see is that after you've written your code, after you've tested it, after it works, they can throw a wrench in your solution, right? They can give you a wild card, if you will. And once they give you that wild card, you can figure out how to implement or a variation of your code to fix those edge cases. If you want to be super advanced, don't wait for them to bring it up. Assume that they're going to, and once you finish your code, you can ask them like, hey, by the way, do you want me to do these 1 or 2 edge cases that I'm assuming will come up in these situations? Then boom, you should be ready to go. Now again, I want to be really direct and upfront with you, right? The number one reason we see candidates and students at Data Engineer Academy fail real world interview rounds, it's not SQL, it's not Python, it's actually really bad behavioral questions, meaning communication skills, how you come off, whether you're coming off not rude, whether you're asking questions to come off curious and analytical, right? Behavioral questions. So Amazon alone has 16 leadership principles. And the reason they have those is because they want to implement that within their culture. They want to make sure that they're hiring somebody that actually exemplifies those leadership principles, right? And so they, out of an 8 interview round process, might run 3 or 4 behavioral question round interviews. Or most engineers skip studying for those behavioral questions. So the question is, why? Why would you do that if you know that 50% of Amazon's interview rounds are behavioral? And the answer is very simple. They are comfortable in the tech world, right? They're better in tech than communicators, so they live here, and then they ask themselves, well, where in the tech world am I weak at? And usually they land on something like Python. And this is where they start to go and do the Python and the leak code and the Coursera for 6 months, thinking that this is their weakness. But in fact, when they get on the interview rounds, guess what is most likely to be the round that stops them? You guessed it, the behavioral questions, because it's 4 out of 8 of the rounds. And so one senior engineer that we had was so confused as to why he was failing. He came to us and he had like 13 failed interviews out of like 2,000 applications that he submitted. So he couldn't afford to keep applying to jobs. He was exhausted. But the thing is, applying to jobs, which is easy for us at Data Engineer Academy, is one thing. Actually acing the interviews that come from those jobs is another. So the question then became, cool, out of the 13 rounds that you had, what was the common denominator? And once we actually dig through them and probed and actually made him sit down and do the math, it was clear that it was the behavioral questions. And so then once it was the behavioral questions, then we had to sit down, write the star format, write down his stories, practice saying the stories out loud. Again, it's work, but it only takes a month, probably even less. And boom, he started acing his next interview rounds. So again, the lesson here is that Python, in all honesty, it's probably the least important round for interviews. Behavioral questions, way more important, especially for you guys that are already making 200, 300, 400 grand a year. The more and more senior you become, the more and more your communication actually is the most important interview round. And so here's the lesson. After every practice problem that you do for Python, A, make sure to record yourself. B, speak out loud while recording. And C, make sure that you're handling edge cases as if they were going to ask you that. Then watch back the recording and figure out what it is that you can do better. And if that is all done and all set, then start to turn your focus away from Python and to behavioral questions. And that is where you can start doing things like the star format to start actually getting your behavioral questions jotted down so that you can have an easier time speaking those out loud.